Hello, my name is Anwar, and today I'm going to talk about how to incorporate research into our teaching. Imagine a student who enters a classroom expecting another boring lecture. But today is different. When he opens the door and greeted by another lecturer, this lecturer didn't bring a textbook or display lecture slide, but he had an exciting story about his own research. Throughout the lecturer tells how today's lecture is aligned to his own research and how it can solve the real world problems. This single interaction inspires the student to learn and explore more. Welcome to the world where research and teaching come together and they can reshape the educational landscape. However, this educational practice is very complex. So today I'll be sharing 5 suggestions and guidelines on how we can seamlessly blend our research into our teaching. And I promise that will transform your teaching experience. Here are my 5 suggestions. Okay, the strategy number 1 is to integrate your research by connecting it to a real-world issue that is well aligned with the lecture contents. And let me show you how do I do it. Currently, I'm teaching an undergraduate subject, Introduction to AI, where I use the topic of ethical AI to explain ethics of AI to my students. So here is an example that how I use and integrate research into my teaching. Within this course, we explore the concept of ethical AI, and I have tried to incorporate 2 of the frameworks directly from my own research. One of these concepts is coming from value-sensitive design. That is the research work which I have done with one of my PhD students, and that was covered by ABC News. This framework originated during a study like how to take care of the values of the senior citizen while redesigning robots for them. That has attracted a lot of attention in the media and also in the literature, like how value-sensitive design can really help to design good digital systems and AI systems. And another similar framework which I have tried to incorporate directly from my teaching into the curriculum is based on image analytics during the COVID-19 pandemic. So we had a collaborated project with our European partners, and we are trying to implement a model without sharing the data. So in this case, what we did is we were able to design a framework in which we don't need to share the data, and we can take care of the privacy of the data while we were able to design the model as well. So that's the called federated learning model, but we specifically used it in the COVID-19 context. So this is one of the framework which I used an example of my research to integrate into ethical AI lecture. So in this way, I showed you how I have used my research finding directly coming from my research, and I put it into the curriculum and how it is helping students to understand how AI could be used in an ethical way. Strategy number 2. The strategy number 2 is infuse your research into teaching by sharing as a really interesting and engaging narrative. And it could be a story. Because I believe how we communicate to our research depends on our audience, because understanding our audience is very important. And we need to adopt and rephrase our research contents based on who we're speaking to. So when we interact with our students, I always try to make an effort can we engage them more into the complex concept? And one of the way we can do it is by story. However, we have to link this story again into a real world event. It couldn't be a fairy tale or something. So one of the project which we did back in 2018 was related to 2018 bushfires in New South Wales. Our university campus was also affected by these fires, and leading the animals like koalas and kangaroos being trapped into the fire zone. So during that time, I shared with my students like how we can use applied AI to detect and rescue animals using imagery. And this is one of the project which was highlighted by the local media, like how AI and similar technology could be used in the emergency situations. Um, and by relating the story to my students, I was able to tell them like how effectively the technology can help to solve real world problems. Number three, like when we are talking to our students, we need to keep things simple. So we need to make our research really comprehensible by breaking it down, those complex ideas into easy to grasp concepts. So instead of relying solely on research papers or the mathematical formulas and other things, I think we need to focus on the simple thing like which most of the people can understand. Because understanding is more important, especially in the perspective of students. Again, I can give you an example because we had a couple of projects related to the bushfire control, which are using different type of technologies, including signal processing, AI, machine learning, digital twins, IoTs. So if we just focus on the terminology and the technical aspects, it will be very difficult for people to grasp it. So the way we can put it, like we put it in a very simple way, like how it is solving. For example, we can tell our students like how the vegetation monitoring is so crucial in terms of the bushfire, because there is a direct contact between the vegetation management and bushfire, because some trees are very flammable, some are not. So you can put trees around the houses which are not flammable, it can really affect. So the way we can plan it with the use of AI, we can segment out all the trees and all of the vegetation which could be flammable. Another thing is like when the vegetation has a contact with the power lines, it also ignites fire. And we can use pattern recognition to design relays which can detect that kind of a behavior. So if I technically explain it, it's a high impedance force, but to keep it simple, we don't try to discuss more terminologies. We want to keep it simple. Another thing which we can do to integrate our research well into our curriculum is to foster the critical thinking. We need to encourage critical thinking in our students, because otherwise it will be just stories. So I think we need to inspire them by in terms of discussing how critically they can think to solve this problem. Again, I have some projects from my research. One of the projects which I did a couple of years ago with the government of Western Australia, we were trying to take care. We were collecting the data about the feral pigs, kangaroos, and all pest animals like it could be rabbits, which can destroy the farmlands. And the way we collected the data is using the helicopters. So when I discuss this research idea with my students, many of them say, oh, it must be very expensive. It should be extent packed, but it's very expensive. So that's, you can directly find that critic from your students. And then I had to explain, like, because it's in the landscape in Western Australia is quite different from here. Like if you use drones or other equipment, it may not cover that vast land. So that's why one of the restriction was to keep everything in the site, and that's why we use the helicopters to collect the data. So when you share your research with your students, actually you get that critical thinking inside them, and they can share that critical thinking and they can find out. So the way we can put it is like, we don't put our research project as the only solution possible to solve the problem, but we say it one of the solutions, so they can come up with different solutions. So that can foster the critical thinking in our students. Last but not the least is to inspire through impact. When we talk about our research, and especially in the context of teaching, the way we can inspire a student is to showcase the impact of our research, so that we can engage them into a similar kind of process. We can highlight how these efforts are really contributing to change the world around us. For instance, some of the projects which we did during the COVID-19 pandemic, we were our research group was one of the first ones to come up with the COVID-19 severity detection system, so that we could able to manage the admission in ICU. And we can also explain the diagnosis of COVID-19 using machine learning. And there was something which is impacting the life of people. And recently, I had a couple of other projects in mental health space where we have recently implemented it, a ChatGPT style chatbot, which is called Mindful GPT, and it's really helping the remote communities to solve their mental health issues. So here you can see directly the impact or how the research is impacting the life of people. So if we can showcase the impact of our research and how it is related to the lives and the surroundings and the communities around us, it will inspire us to. So if I summarize, I think these guidelines can help us to integrate our research into our teaching curriculum and inspire our students. So let's continue to bridge this gap and inspire the mind of tomorrow. Thank you.